It's Friday, which means it's time to deploy. Jim is once again here again. How was your week, Jim?
Good week this week. Finished up an iteration going into like 20% time. We call it sharpening time, where we get to work on some little pet projects and stuff, which is always a nice way to re-energize.
Have you had any projects you've worked on recently or in the past that you'd like to mention? Like I remember, for example, on one of our sharpening cycles, I and another person built the Visual Studio Code extension for Octopus Deploy in about 10 days.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And sometimes we do stuff like that. At the moment, I'm working on more things like, we're creating this new execution pipeline for Octopus and working on ways to, set up unit tests better. We're writing lots and lots of unit tests and just need some really good helpers for that kind of stuff. So more low level stuff I'm doing at the moment, but still fun. It's the stuff I love.
Yeah, yeah. Sharpening should
Yeah,
be more like cleaning up technical
yeah,
debts.
yeah. That's right.
Spring
Sometimes you
cleaning.
ship a feature too.
Awesome. All right. That's right. Yeah. All right, let's get into the news. So, yeah, lots of exciting stuff that's been happening recently. In particular, we have recently hit 300 employees. So, that's awesome. I don't know what employee number were you, Jim?
I have no idea. I should find that out.
Were you
It's about
before?
2 years ago. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So somewhere in the hundreds, maybe, I guess.
maybe, yeah. We've grown
Yeah.
so fast it could be.
I think I was around 40 something, maybe 50 something.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're at 300. This is unbelievable. Like,
Yeah,
this is
totally.
awesome. So, this is a post from Nadine, and she talks about how Octopus Deploy has recently crossed 500, or sorry, 500, 300 people, which is fantastic. So, talks a little bit about Paul's background, started the company back in 2012, proposed, hired a couple of contractors, and eventually a full-time employee. And then since then, has basically grown the company year over year. And fast forward to approximately 12 years later, we have just hit 300 full-time employees, which is fantastic. So full congratulations and credit to Paul and Sonia, the founders of Octopus Deploy, as well as some of the folks who have been here since the beginning. It's fully a credit to all the hard work you've all put in. And I think, yeah, let's see where we go from here.
Up and to the right.
Yes, up and to the right. It's always a positive thing to go up and to the right. So yeah, fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
Well
so
done.
good.
Recently we had Dan Garfield and Scott Hanselman had a little chat. So this is a very popular podcast called Hanselminutes. Scott's been doing this for a very, very long time. And he talks to a lot of technical folks that are out there. And in particular, he talked to our very own VP of open source, Dan Garfield, talking about GitOps on the edge with Octopus Deploy's Dan Garfield. This is the title. They talk about a whole bunch of other things in regards to applying GitOps. But GitOps on the edge is both a literal and a figurative description, basically. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening on the edge. One might even say like Kubernetes on the edge is kind of interesting. So there are many examples that we've cited in the past that do this. But GitOps is certainly part of the process to do a lot of those things. So GitOps on the edge, check it out. New episode of Hanselminutes. So do you listen to podcasts, Jim?
I do, and I used to listen to Hanselminutes a lot. I'm going to go check this one out.
Cool. Any
Yeah.
any shows you'd recommend or have listened to recently that you like?
The ones I listen to most of the time now are the changelog, I think. But
Yep.
they honestly, they produce so much of content, I struggle to listen to a lot else. So it's time to go out and check out what else is out there again.
Yes, I'm a fan of Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott
Yeah.
and Richard Campbell. Also a fan of typical news stories and news shows like um, NPR, BBC, etc. I
Yeah.
listen to the Monday Morning Podcast with Bill Burr for a laugh. So I'll constantly walk around my house mowing my lawn and pick up sticks, and I'll be giggling the whole time. My wife's like, "What are you listening to?" And just like giggling along. So there you go. Anyways, check it out. Dan Garfield talking about GitOps on the edge with Scott
Nice.
Hanselman. We've got a bunch of webinars that are planned. Just to remind folks, we've got the Codefresh 101 series that's already locked and loaded for August 20th and September 3rd. We've also got a couple of webinars focused on Kubernetes. In particular, we've got Kubernetes workload in reliability tests. That will be on August 22nd. And then on August 27th, we're going to have the Octopus Cloud team join us and talk about how they create, maintain, and build Octopus Cloud using Kubernetes. So fantastic stuff. And of course, we've got our 101 series that is also listed. We have some new webinars that we haven't announced yet, but stay tuned for those. We'll be talking about those very, very soon. So that's all up at /webinars. Speaking of webinars, we recently hosted Philip Hollerman, who is the field CTO of GitHub. He and our field CTO, Bob Walker, talked about DevEx and deployments with with GitHub Copilot and Octopus Deploy. So in particular, Bob and Phil talked a little bit about GitHub Copilot and the extension that we've built for Copilot, which allows you to communicate with Octopus Deploy via VS Code. So they basically spent most of the webinar inside of the IDE, talking to Octopus Deploy through the extension that we built. This extension, of course, is available up on the GitHub Marketplace, and you can check it out there if you want to kick the tires, so to speak. But really hands-on example of what you can do with GitHub Copilot and Octopus Deploy for your deployments. Bob showed a bunch of examples, and Phil talked a little bit as a background of what we're doing with GitHub Copilot. So great stuff there. That's available up on our YouTube channel, so make sure to check that out. This is an article that Steve Fenton wrote entitled "The Doorway Effect and Developer Experience: Why It Matters." So in particular, he's talking a little bit about how GitHub Copilot can help mitigate or reduce some of the distractions. So it's a nice sort of segue from the recent webinar that we hosted with Phil. There's a lot of stuff that you have to worry about, but he describes what is the doorway effect. So you're about to leave your house. You check your pockets for your keys. You don't want to lock yourself out. They aren't in your pocket, so you need to go find them. You head into your front room and they aren't there, so you go check in the kitchen. The first thing you see is the kitchen is that someone has left the milk out. That's annoying, but it's still cold, so you put it back in the fridge. And then it happens. The thing where you stand in the middle of the room and wondering why you came in. That's the doorway effect. Some would refer to this as yak shaving. So yak shaving, where you continually go around fixing problem after problem. The thing about the doorway effect, though, is that you forget what you were doing in the first place. So a little bit different there. But yeah, so to try and minimize those distractions, which Steve correctly points out is the problem, you can use tools like GitHub Copilot, which integrate naturally inside of an environment like VS Code, as well as other IDEs. And using that, it will allow you to stay in focus or in context. And so this is an article from Steve to try and minimize the doorway effect. Is this something you suffer from? I know I sometimes do.
It is something I suffer from. I use things like just a notepad to solve this. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how AI might help.
There you go. Yeah. Every time I do something that requires multiple tasks, I try to always remember, like, don't go too deep. It's a very limited depth first search that I pursue using algorithms parlance. I try not to get too deep, otherwise I forget where I've gone. So awesome.
Could I avoid this?
We have our roadmap, of course, which is at roadmap.octopus.com. This should be your homepage, as I've always said. Otherwise, make it a bookmark. We have a couple of items here that I want to point out. Jim, I wasn't sure if you had seen these yet, but these have recently been posted by Kit. So Kit recently posted how we're asking for feedback on a new improvement that we're considering entitled progressive rollouts. So this is something that you can model blue, green, and canary in Octopus today. However, it requires, as he says here, careful modeling and extra scripting. So we're exploring new ways in which to simplify the configuration of these deployment patterns, namely blue, green, and deployment, as well as adding functionality to monitor and control rollout progress. So if this is a feature that you might be interested in, then you should let Kit know via the roadmap page. This is something that is under consideration at the moment. This has not been committed to. But what are your thoughts on this, just hearing it possibly for the first time, Jim?
Yeah, I think definitely. I'm surprised we even want feedback on this. This is a great idea. Do it, Kit.
Yes.
Ship it.
So go ahead and use the voting capabilities down here. Let's mark this one as either important or critical. Hey, folks,
Yeah.
I would like to see that. Another one here that Kit has posted, Kubernetes manifest inspection. So this is the sort of diffs that occur in your YAML when deploying to Kubernetes. And so this is a new consideration. They're considering, again, under consideration, a new improvement for the Kubernetes experience, manifest inspector. So the idea is that the inspector will show manifests produced during a deployment. You won't see Octopus variables, customization files, or Helm charts. Instead, you'll see the final YAML files with all the variables applied. So this is a really nice feature, especially if you're looking to support Kubernetes deployments. Via the YAML inspector, you get to see the deltas. This is something you can do today in the audit log. So if you look at our audit log, this is very reminiscent of that. You have red on one side, green on the other. You can see the deltas between them. We're now carrying that forward into the YAML inspector. This is, again, under consideration. So, but if this is something that you feel is important to you, you can go ahead and, of course, vote on it down here at the bottom. Any thoughts on that, Jim?
I don't have the pleasure of having the kind of YAML hell that a lot of people have to deal with, but I imagine that would be very useful. It looks great.
Very good. So we also have our latest edition of the Codefresh Insiders. So lots of highlights. Some of the ones that are listed as new include our RBAC for pipeline runtimes granular control. We talked a little bit about this on a previous episode. Keeping it secured, patching our runtime Argo CD CVEs as soon as they were released. So we patched a ton of CVEs for Argo. That, again, is committed to our open source strategy around Argo. Usability enhancements and bug fixes. So if you're all interested about reading about these things, you can check out the Insiders newsletter, which is available via LinkedIn. Lots of stuff happening there, including links to our YouTube channel, which is, of course, growing. We have lots of videos there, and we highlight some of the upcoming things that we're doing, namely our webinar series, which I've already talked about, KCD Sydney, KubeCon, a whole bunch of other stuff. We've also got a fun little thing that we did here with some memes. So you may have noticed this recently. There's some fun memes that we've been playing with. So there you go. So check that out. Codefresh Insiders, August 2024 edition. And then finally, wrapping things up, we have Shipped. We've been mentioning this. We're going to keep mentioning this. So Shipped is our virtual event. It's happening November 20th and 21st. You can check out more at /Shipped. You can save your seat if you so wish, or you can submit a speaker session. We have an open sessionize there. So if you have any inkling or want to talk a little bit about Octopus Deploy, GitOps, Kubernetes deployments, anything in between, we would love to see you there. Feel free to submit a session now. It's available up on Sessionize. And this is, of course, via for Shipped. So there we go. That is the latest news. And yeah, any final words there, Jim, before we wrap up today's episode?
No, you've got everything you can from me this Friday, I think.
Nice. The air show is on right now here in Gold Coast. You may have heard it in the background noise as I was talking here. I might actually go check that out. I'd like to see an F-22. They are here, so I will check those out. Awesome. All right, well, if you happen to stumble upon this video and you haven't subscribed, feel free to do so. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind. And we will see you on the next one. Happy deployments, everyone. Take care.